Right, so what I've got is, this is an interesting thing. This is one of these compostable carry bags that you can get from, I think this one's from Co-op. But basically you can put this into your food waste. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel my potatoes straight into this, and then they can go straight in the bin. So I've already started peeling this one, but plan is I'm going to peel this. Then I've got some water here that you can see. I'm going to put the potatoes into there. Okay, and there's the last one, so I'm just going to put that in there. And then we're going to move on to chipping. Right, okay, so the peeling's done. You can see I've got my peelings here in this bag. So, as I said earlier, this is a compostable bag. So I'm just going to tie this up and put it in the bin. Okay, so now we come on to chopping up the potatoes. So first of all, I've got some fresh water here. That's just to put the chips in once they're chopped up, so that they can get rid of some of the starch, and they're not going to go brown until we're ready to fry them. So to chop them, you need a good sort of solid knife. And what I'm going to go for is, just to give you a little example here, I'm going to sort of chop the potato in half. Then in half again. Then, I like quite sort of long potatoes, so I'm going to keep the potatoes, keep the length kind of quite long, and go for sort of 1/2 centimetre to 3/4 of a centimetre kind of slices, really. So like that. Like that. Then I don't like them big and chunky. In England, we sometimes would call this a sort of steak cut chip. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut these in half. And as I'm cutting them, I'm just going to put them in the water. And then we'll get all of these potatoes cut. Okay, so there we go. So for me, I quite like having different sizes of chips. You get crispy ones, you'll get, corner edge ones like that. There's no real science to it, but just, whatever you kind of think works. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave these for a couple of minutes, just let the starch soak out of them. Then the next step is I'm going to use some of this vegetable oil in a pan. So I'm going to heat that up to a frying temperature. Then there's another step we need to do for the potatoes. So what we're going to do is after a couple of minutes, we're going to drain off this starchy water. Then we're going to pour some boiling water in and just leave it for a couple of minutes. And what that does is the boiling water will just soften the potatoes. It's similar to kind of a par. Okay, so we've got the chips over here that have been soaking in the water. Now I've replaced this water a couple of times, purely just because the starch gets a bit saturated. You need to replace it a couple of times. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to boil, a full kettle of water, enough to kind of sit into the chips. So I'll start that off now. Then I'm going to go and drain these chips in the sink while the kettle's boiling. Okay, excellent. So they're just drained. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour the boiling water into the pan so that it covers the chips, and maybe a little bit more, maybe sort of an inch more, just to give it a bit more heat. And what this is going to do is this is just going to parboil the potatoes. So although the water's kind of not cooking and it's not on the hob, after a couple of minutes it's still going to soften those potatoes and just make them soft enough inside that so when we fry them, they'll be an even bit more softer and fluffy inside. Okay, so kettle out of the way. Next thing to do is to sort of prepare the oil. So like I said earlier, I've just got standard vegetable oil, which is fine. You can use whatever oil you can get hold of. So I'm just going to open this oil. And then into sort of the pan, just pour this oil in. This is 1.5 litres, I believe. Yeah, no, 1 litre of oil, which is fine for cooking these chips. So there we go. It doesn't look like a huge amount of oil, but trust me, that's going to be enough. So I'm going to keep the bottle so that I can pour the oil back in once we cook the chips. And then let's move over to the cooker. We'll put this on the hob, turn it up, get it to a cooking temperature. All of this while the chips, you can see the steam coming off them. They're still just getting soft inside. So let's move over to the cooker. Right, okay, so back at the cooker again. So the oil's now heated up. It's been about, to be honest, it took about 10 minutes. Now what you want to do is just get a chip, and to make sure the oil's up to temperature, you want to dip it in, and if it starts to bubble like that, you can see, then the chips are ready to go in. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is to kind of ease getting the chips in, because the chips are going to start splashing when we put them in the oil. So to be safe, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoop these up and put them into a sort of mini colander that I've got. And I'm going to do them in probably three lots. So I'm just going to put them in, and I'm going to stand away. I'm stood about 0.5 metre away from the chip pan, so you can see that some of the oil did spill out onto me, which was not great. But what you want to do is just make sure that you could, it didn't hit me, but it would have done if I was a bit closer. So I'm just going to put the rest of these chips in, as I'm doing, bit by bit. Right, so the chips are now kind of cooking away. I've turned down the heat by about half here, so then they're no longer as vigorously frying as they were. It always happens when you first put the chips in, they will sort of vigorously fry because of the water content that it's initially boiling off, and that's kind of all it is. But it does tend to spit out bits of oil when it's doing that, so you do really need to be careful. So I'd say probably turn it down to half before you put the chips in, which I didn't do, but that's probably the best thing to do. So we're just going to let these fry now. It's important to note that you can't use any plastic implements in here or any wooden implements because the oil is incredibly hot. What I tend to do is either use a spoon or a fork, a metal spoon or fork, and just put it in very, very quickly so that it doesn't, so the heat doesn't kind of transfer up the up the utensil, and just sort of give it a little stir. Now you don't want to be stirring them. This is just purely to check that they're kind of how they're cooking. Definitely don't stir them. Just kind of just leave them as they are. Now they'll take probably about 10 minutes. So we'll do a quick jump cut. Okay, so they've been on now for about 5 minutes. A couple of things to note. If you're using a pan like this, which is a traditional pan, stainless steel pan, and not a chip pan like they use in restaurants or you might have at home, you do now and again need to just move the chips around. If you had a basket in there, you could just shake the basket, but we don't have a basket. So again, I'm just going to use the spoon, but be careful to just not keep it in there for too long, because I don't want to burn my hand. So I'm just going to move these chips around slightly. Just lift a few of them out. Just let them move around inside this pan, so they kind of get a bit of movement, so they can brown on all sides. As you can see, the chips are kind of nicely browning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare for the chips to come out of the pan. Again, we need to get the oil off the chips once they're out of the pan, so I'm going to prepare some more kitchen roll here. They do look a little bit pale at the moment, but they will go brown quite quickly. What happens is, it's been about 10 minutes so far, and you can see that they're starting to brown. Within a minute, they'll go really brown. So you just need to keep an eye on them. Make sure you're ready for when that happens, and that you're ready to sort of take them out and put them straight onto the kitchen towel. Again, I'm just giving them a quick stir around. Again, you want to be careful not to do that too much, but let's leave them in for a couple of minutes while I prepare the kitchen towel. Okay, so it's been another 5 minutes since we last checked them. So I'm just going to have a quick look with the spoon now. You can see they're starting to go a nice brown colour. I don't want them to cook any more than that. I like the chips like that. Now they will go more brown. They'll change a bit of colour when we take them out of the pan. So even though they look a little bit anemic, don't be too startled by that. So I'm just going to turn the heat off. Okay, now they will still keep cooking. Now what I'm going to do, because we don't have a traditional chip pan, normally with a chip pan you would have a basket inside the oil and just be able to lift them out. I'm going to have to scoop them into this. So again, you've got to be very careful, but just, scoop the chips out. Try and make sure that any oil that's dripping drips back into the pan. Okay, and then I'm just going to put them onto the paper towel here. What they'll do is the chips will start to the oil rather will start to soak into the paper towel, and the chips will dry, which is what you need. So the last couple are always a bit of a pain to get out, especially when you're just using a spoon, but I'm sure we'll get there. A couple of things you'll notice, the pan now stops making as much of a noise because it's not cooking anything anymore. You'll notice that the chips, again, they look more brown once they're out of the oil. So let's just check we've got nothing in there. Okay, we've got nothing else in there. Just give them a quick rinse, and then we've got our chips here. Okay, so we've got our oil off. We've got our chips here. What I'm going to do, you'll see again that they do start to look more appetizing now they're out of the chip pan than they initially did when they were in the chip pan. So it's all about knowing when to take them out of the oil. Now what I do generally is I like to sort of spread them around the paper towel here. Let's get them a quick spread out so that it absorbs as much of the oil as possible. And you'll see, look, they start to look absolutely lovely. Okay, so I kind of give them a minute or two for the oil to kind of soak into the paper towel. And then I put another paper towel over the top, and then, gently press down. It is a little bit warm. Be careful not to burn yourself with any of the hot chips, but just press down lightly on them. You don't want to crush them. Then, I tend to just sort of leave them there for a minute or two for the oil to soak. Okay, so they've been left just for literally a minute. That's it. You'll see now they've kind of changed colour a little bit. I'm just going to taste one. They're very good. One thing I want to say, do make sure that your oil is off. It's so easily done that you forget to turn the oil off. In fact, one thing that you probably should do is just move the oil onto another ring, just in case, just because it helps to be safe. Now the next thing I'm going to do, while the chips are still hot, I'm going to put them into a plastic bowl. I've just got a normal plastic bowl here, and you'll see why I'm going to do this in a minute. I'm just going to put some salt and pepper on them in the bowl. So I've got my chips here. I'm going to put some salt on. Again, it's personal taste. Some people won't want any salt, but I quite like a little bit of salt and quite a lot of pepper. And the reason for putting it in the bowl is that you can then just give them a good shake. What this does is it just makes all the salt and pepper stick to each chip individually, so that when you're plating them out, you don't have any chips that haven't got any salt or pepper on. And there we go, there are the chips. So all I need now is to put them out on a plate and eat them. And thanks for watching. Hopefully see you soon. If you like what you've seen, then please subscribe and hit the notification bell.